day, everyone, and welcome to Handicappers Corner here at the Derby Bar and Grill. Along with Drew Forster, I'm Mike Heads, and we'll go through all 8 races on the Hastings Racecourse program for Saturday, May the 12th. This looks like we're going to have some great conditions. Weather has been phenomenal all week, actually.
It's been a phenomenal week period with
Mario. Mario
winning the Derby last week. Unbelievable. I picked him. I'd like to point out.
I did not. I know.
Some of these guys go for these Mitt Romney blue bloods out of New York.
Who's that guy?
Exactly. I told you the 19 hole. I'm not worried about the 19 hole. He gets to place him where he wants him. Sure enough, Mario comes through.
It was actually a perfect story. Yeah, he's had a busy week too, and it's great that he's going to be here on Sunday at Hastings. Of course, it's been a whirlwind tour for him. He was at Dodger games, Laker games.
Big star, big celebrity.
Interviews everywhere, but great for Mario Gutierrez, and of course the connections of I'll Have Another will be headed to. Actually, he's at Pimlico, so next Saturday, got to get out and get reservations here at of course at Hastings. It'll be packed as the second jewel, the Triple Crown, goes on the 19th. That's the first half of the double. Let's get to the Hastings
Spectacular Hastings races. Back home here to Hastings. First race is a maiden 20 for 3-year-olds, and I've gone to the one-horse Willow Cat, a horse that John Snow claimed out of this last race for Robbie Anderson.
Yep.
I liked the horse in that race. The only reason I picked it second. The reason I didn't pick it on top because it didn't have a start this year. But yeah, just an awful trip. Just got knocked around. A bit of a union rags type trip. So it's got to start now. Not as many horses in here. It did draw the one hole, but bit cleaner trip. I think he gets the money. Second spot, I have the 4, Our Last Call. First time starter out of the Rosie Anderson barn, and Rosie's a very underrated horsewoman. She can have him ready first go. Pedro takes the call. And in the third spot, number 6, Shingen Bolt. Patty Leaney's charge in here with Frank Fuentes aboard. Was in that maiden 20 last one where they were pretty spread out. Canucks Roar won by a couple, then Quattrill's Raider was way in front of the rest of them. Obviously, Canucks Roar isn't in here, neither is Quattrill's Raider, so
it's a little easier
spot, yeah.
I agree with you with Willow Cat. I think this horse is going to run very well. I think it's going to be the speed. I just don't see any speed in the race. Maybe Gentleman Ben for a little bit, but I think Willow Cat is going to be fast enough to be out there. And then, therefore, if you're on the head end, you can't get in any trouble. And that's,
exactly. Yeah.
It was a brutal trip. Got squeezed out. It was a big long inquiry. No change ended up happening, but he ended up getting beat 7 lengths in a time that I thought was pretty good. And with this 20 not coming up super tough, that's where I'm going to land. I give the 3 Mazel print a shot. Like the Mara Limited print. The works are good. Goes first time Lasix. This horse did run 3rd first time out last year, and I thought this horse might be worth following, and maybe at a bit of a price. I just like the minute and change work couple of works ago in the slot. So I mean, this horse has some ability, and that's all you can ask in a race like this, because it won't take much for anyone to jump up and win it.
Not a really
probably running 120 or 119 and change, so you won't need a huge effort to win it. And I put the 4, as you mentioned, Our Last Call, in a debuting son of Finality out of the Rosie Anderson barn. You're right. Rosie gets horses ready to roll. Doesn't have a big stable, but you usually hear from her quite a bit.
Does a really good job. Yeah.
But I went 1, 3, and 4 in the opener. I'm going to agree with you on the 1, Willow Cat.
I'm on the 1, 4, 6, and on to the second, Michael.
Nice little allowance race. It's our feature actually today. Got 6, actually going to be 5 going post where the 5 Sartorialist is out.
We have a scratch.
So 5 of them heading 6.5 furlongs in this allowance event. I'm going to go to the 2 Majesticality. Had a rough year last year. Had a lot of bad luck. He got disqualified in his last start. It's tough to start, against 4. You had the 4-year-old blues. And
exactly. After winning the BC Derby win.
Yeah, and you got to hit 4 and ups, and those races become pretty tough when you have not many conditions. And he fits this condition perfectly. He's an on-3 BC bred, and it's come up with a 3-year-old in here. It hasn't come up top. I think he just has to beat Stormy Canuck, and I like him to do it. Looks like there could be a little bit of speed. I like him to sit in behind, make a run, and maybe win the money.
He is a nice closer.
Yeah, Stormy Canuck I put for second. It was a good runner-up effort to $1 weight down a dime, who didn't run all that well on the stake last week, but still thought it was a good effort considering Stormy Canuck really isn't probably at his best sprinting. I think he's a little bit better route horse, but he can do either. And I put the 3 Time Machine of the John Morrison barn in for third. Goes in blinkers, has some speed. Not too sure what to do with him. Just reading in the form that he may want to go a little longer, reading at the Randy Goulding's article, but we'll see how he does. I left out Devil in Disguise, which could be a mistake, but just a race contention top to bottom, and I went to Majesticality.
Interesting. I went with Stormy Canuck. because he's had the out.
Yep.
You know, we've seen that a lot this year. The horses that have been running, the ones that came in from Turf Paradise, of course, were very dangerous early. Now these horses that have had a start seem to have a little bit of an edge. So I got him on top. Yeah, a great runner-up effort at $1 waiting on a dime. Like you say, didn't run great in the stake, but at this level, he'd be heavy favorite in here. So I went with Stormy Canuck because he does have the start and he gets the red-hot Amadeo Perez. In the second spot, I have Devil in Disguise. I would have put him in the first spot, but like I say, he didn't have the out. I know that the Troy Taylor barn is really high on this horse. They think he's maybe their best 3-year-old, him or Taylor Steele. If Taylor Steele was in here, he'd be a handful. So I have him in the second spot, and in third I have Time Machine. So it's 1-4-3 for me. Interesting to see what Time Machine will do.
Yeah, no, you're right. Goes in blinkers. This is not much speed, and that may play against a horse like Devil in Disguise. And my only problem with Devil in Disguise, he is a 3-year-old, number one. And he's running against older horses, so that's kind of a little bit of a setback. He's been on turf most of his life. He was an off-the-turf horse the one race. He's been off for a while. I know they're probably high on him. You know, watching him work in the mornings. We'll see if this is his best service.
Doesn't always translate.
That's the whole key. But this barn's thrown out. We'll fire out live ones.
They've done it before.
They've done it, but this isn't their first live one. But I went 2-1-3, and Drew's going to head to the one horse, though, a Stormy Canuck. And on to the third, a maiden 10 for 3-year-olds and up. Interesting little race. I went with the 8-horse Chapel Boy, a horse who's had a lot of starts, which isn't always a great sign for maiden, but very seasoned, of course, and ran a bang-up effort last time to This Bruise for You. Looks like one of the, one of the good run. Yeah, good run. One of the more accomplished horses in here. That's the 8-horse. In the second spot, I took a kind of a flyer here, Friar Tuck, out of the Dave Forrester barn. It wasn't a terrible race last time for in that maiden 20. Now he drops in for maiden 10, actually in for the 9, a little weight off. And that 22 and 4 work yesterday morning looks like that's fast. It looks like he maybe woke up a little bit, and so I like him in the second spot, number 5. And in third, John Snow's Ice Rules, who is jumping up, but has one of the better buyers in the field off of maiden 5, and guess new rider Enrique Gonzalez, who's coming up here from Mexico, and he looks like he can ride a little bit. Ran third in the stake last week on Senior Rojo. John puts him in the attack for a horse I think is pretty live. I think he's live too. I'm going to take him on top. Pretty impressed with what this horse had to endure last time, and he still ran a big third. Missed the break and was being very tight passing the stands. Just had a horrific trip. Had to go 4 wide down the backstretch. I think this horse breaks well because I think he's going to be a speed horse. As you can tell, he was 6th by a length going into the first turn after breaking card. I think he's going to be a speed horse, and I think he can find his way to the front, or at least close to it in here. As long as he gets a clean trip, I think he'll run well. I put the 6 Ottoman in for second. I know he did finish behind Chapel Boy, but Chapel Boy had the rails run. This horse had the 3-wide trip, and it's just the roles maybe reversed with Chapel Boy being on the outside, and that's why I just flip-flopped him. I put Chapel Boy in for third.
He is a bit of a bridesmaid too, Chapel Boy.
Yeah, he's had some chances. So is Ottoman, and so is a Tejan, another horse that's getting blinkers that might improve, that you might want to toss in your early pick 4s or pick 3s. But I did go to the 3 Ice Rules. Not a strong pick, but just a race that you're right. You got Friar Tuck even in here. That there's a lot of contention. It's just one of those races where look at him in the paddock, and maybe one will stand out of the 3 or 4 that we've mentioned, and that might be the one that wins it. 8-5-3 for me. All right, I went to the 3 Ice Rules. And on to the 4th race, we have some maiden 5 granders in here. Fillies and mares going 6.5. I like the 5 horse here, Plain Jane. I'm going to go back to John Snow. I'm going to say he's going to have a big day. I already got him 3 times. All right. Good runner-up effort to Exotic Light. He lost to his father that day. Mel ended up winning it. But I thought it was a good race. Made the lead. Perhaps got lost on the lead or something. Had about a length and a half lead in the stretch. I know it doesn't look like it on form, but it was because it was between calls where he had the lead. But this horse ran a big race, first start off the bench, and that was enough for me. I put a couple of firsters in behind him. The 2 Spring Into Fashion under the Alex Murray barn has a series of strong works and has lured Richard Hamill to ride, so that's a big plus. And I put the 6 Who's Cash out of the Bill Connick Jr. barn. Alex Marty rides steady works. It's a 4-year-old, debuts on Lasix. This barn can sneak one at you too at a big price. Absolutely. So don't leave out Billy Connick. This kid can train. So I went 5, 2, and 6. I'm going to go to Plain Jane to win it.
I agree with you with the winner. Plain Jane looks like the best horse in here, like you say. And that first start of the year was almost like the first start of her life. Just ran them once last year. Come out, like you say, maybe got a little lost in the lead. But I expect more of a professional showing today.
Yeah, you see a better horse. I mean, horses improve from start 1 to start 2, and I hope that happens.
Exactly. I think so too. Again, I think she's a bit of a standout. Trying to find the second spot is a little trickier. I went with Frankie Barraby's horse, Victoria B. She's been working good. Minute flat pretty much.
Fast.
Yeah. That should be enough to put her in the mix here. And in the third spot I put Grievance, a horse who's another one who's had quite a few chances, but I don't have her on top. But I think she could sneak in there. Danny Fisher's horse gets Frank. I think she could sneak in there and maybe complete the triathlon.
Yeah, no, there's no real lock in this race, and all these horses will need is a decent trip, some of them, and maybe Grievance will slide up the inside and get a big chunk of it. And I don't mind your Victoria B. I'm a little concerned about the lack of works. I know they're fast, but they're just 1/2, 1/5, and now we're running, and it's just
doesn't have a start.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just a lot of firsters. Another race. Head over to the paddock if you're at Hastings and try and sniff something out.
See what you like.
But I do like the 5 horse quite a bit, so we agree on that.
We agree on Plain Jane.
Fifth race.
On to the fifth, 3 and up maiden 20 for fillies and mares, and I've gone to the 3 Naughty Librarian. Really like this filly. That was a huge effort last time.
Big time effort.
Yeah, she was a little bit. I knew they were worried in the morning. She'd been a little bit funny in the gate. She was standing in the gate good, and somebody on the outside kind of acted up, and I could see her start to go a little bit. And then when they sprung it. She kind of broke a step slow, and then Fernando kind of grabbed her. She looked like she was going to, kind of go to the rails, and then she was way out of it. Look, like she's just going to gallop around there last. Started making a big move, went 5 wide. Looked like she was going to win it. Just got a little bit tired. So if she breaks it all and kind of, can stay with the pack a little bit, I think she's the best horse in the race.
Goes on Lasix. That's a big first time Lasix as well.
So yeah, a lot of angles pushing her way. I really like Naughty Librarian. That would kind of be almost one of my best bets of the day, kind of candidate there. Yeah. The second I have Revster, who ran second in that race. Naughty Librarian almost caught her. I expect her to move past her today, but Revster was definitely the second best horse in the, or third best horse, I should say, in the race that day. The winner obviously isn't in here. And in the third, I have Maurice Glory, one that I know Barb has always been high on, and ran her stake last year. She was also in that Naughty Librarian race. I looked for her, She hadn't had an out this year. She wasn't one of the ones that Barb had in Phoenix, so that was her first start this year.
Might have needed one.
She might have needed one, and she could move forward off that. So it's 3-1-8 for me.
I like her moving to the outside too. I didn't pick her in the top 3, but I like her moving from down on the fence over to the outside. Yeah. Gives your horses way more options. I agree on your 3 horse Naughty Librarian. Goes first time Lasix. Did everything right but win. I mean,
and then almost
showed some ability. I mean, walked out of the gate hopelessly last and made this athletic run around the turn, and she's got to be the best in here. I put the 7 Tricky Mind in for second. Battle on the pace. 22-2 was a little swift for the opening quarter. The track was very slow that day. You'll notice it's a 20 variant. It was quite dull, and 22-2 was very lively. And that definitely took a little starch at a Tricky Mind in the end of the race. So I like the fact that at least she was in there fighting. She was right in there to the head of the lane. She did falter the last 16, so she ended up 5th. But I think she's one that can move forward. She might be able to get the lead in here.
She's got the start under her belt now too.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Enrique Gonzalez in the tack. I mean, here's a kid that can ride.
Yeah,
so I think this is the one. If Naughty Librarian loses, I think it's going to be the Tricky Mind. And I put the one Revster, that one in for third. But they're all coming out of the same race. I think they might change the positions this time. We're hoping anyway. I went 3, 7, and 1. On to the 6th race. $7,500 mares going 6.5 furlongs. Kicking off your late pick 3. Got a full gate here. I like the 3 horse Dream in the Dark. Just missed Odd ZZ. Kind of unlucky to hook into a horse of that caliber at that level. But because she had been running for a lot more money, Odd ZZ. But Dream in the Dark, good post. Inoel Bieto. Nice to welcome him to
coming up from Golden Gate. A nice little rider from
Golden Gate. Very accomplished rider. He spent some time at Emerald. He's been through the West Coast, but a very gifted rider. Journeyman that's won a lot of races. So if you end up liking a horse and it's got this Beato on it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be scared.
Gallop up to the windows and bet on it.
Yeah.
This kid can ride. And I think this filly can get a good spot, or this mare can get a good spot in behind the leaders and prove tough. Good work since her last race in 47-1. That was enough for me. There isn't a whole lot of speed in here, and so I give Tim Evans' horse, the 7-horse Snowbird Pass, a shot. This horse closed out 2011 with some big runs.
Yeah.
Has been working lights out in the mornings as a bunch of 5s, a 6, and then back down to a 5 furlong work. So lots of mileage for Snowbird Pass, even though she doesn't have a race under her belt like you would want when you're a speed horse, because she's going to have to go it all the way. But I'm going to hope that this Enrique Gonzalez has a good day, because I got him on a lot of horses.
Him and John. You need him and John today.
And I put the 8 Scopa in the class drop in for third. She ran a distant third, really wasn't in the race at all, but still, that was against Random Highs in victory class. That was an open 12.5. This is a restricted 7,500, non-2, non-3, so I think she fits nicely in here. I went 3, 7, and 8 in what should be a pretty good little race.
I went with Scopa just because of the class drop. Yep. Now she's got an out. She picks up Fernando Perez, leading rider. Random Highs, was much the best in that race. That was a pretty salty 12.5. Like you say, now she drops into the condition, the non-2 BC, non-3, which fits her like a glove. Might be a little bit short for her, but I think she's also the best horse in the race. Right. So I'm going with Scopa. I do have Dream in the Dark second. 2 big seconds, like you say, just got beat a nose. Turf Paradise comes up here and runs second to Odd ZZ. Yeah. A much tougher horse in that kind of condition, even more so than Scopa. And in the third spot, so I'm 8-3. And in the third spot, number 4, McGuire's Bridge out of Dave Forster's barn. A horse they were quite high on last year. Beat Lemon Loaf, Lucina. Just got beat 4 or 5 lengths by Castanet Dancer. Ran her in an optional 35 this year, which Burning Britches, Terlani, tough race.
Too tough, yeah.
And now she plummets down to the non-2, non-3 BC bred race. And I look for her to make some noise in here, just because that is a giant
that's a big drop. It's a huge drop. Yeah. None of these horses would fare very well in a race like that either, so it's no shock that she finished well back.
Yeah, exactly. So she fits in here, and Dave Force is off to a good start this year.
Yes, he is.
So it's 8-3-4 for me, and on to the 7th. A claiming 12.5 for 3-year-old fillies, straight 3-year-old fillies claiming 12.5, and I've gone to the 1. What a score! She was in that optional 50 with Dance with the Wind. Yeah, I think she's the speed of the speed in here. Mercado's got a little speed. There are some other ones with speed, but I think you got to catch her to win this one. She does have kind of the best last race out of these horses. There's a few of them coming out of that optional 50, but she ran the best race in there against Down with the Wind, Satellite Debris. So I think she's just going to be really quick, and you're going to have to catch her. Second spot, I have out of the Terry Clyde barn, Undo It, number 8, with coming out of the same race too.
Right.
That's the reason I put What a Score on top. Is she finished better ahead of Undo It, so I got Undo It in the second spot, and Thimble, number 5, out of the Dino Condolinos barn with Ryan Pacheco aboard. Another one that ran in a really tough race last time against Claire's Measy and Two Feathers, El Ciervo. Nothing like that in here.
No.
So this is quite a bit softer spot for her, dropping way down on the 12.5 level. So I have her in third spot. It's 1-8-5 for me.
I see the race the same way. I've got the same 3. I've got them flip-flopped around, but I do see What a Score going into the front. I see the 4 Mercado, and I see the 5 Thimble. I see the front end getting quite crowded, and I'm going to hope that Terry Clyde's number 8, Undo It, can win it. I put her on the top spot. I'm going to forgive her for kind of a flat effort in her debut. Maybe she needed to run. Maybe she was a little too close to the pace. I don't know. But she just didn't run as good as she was running last year. Some of her races there in August, those are good enough to win today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm going to Richard Hamill jumps aboard for the injured Dave Wilson, and we should report that Davey's he's got some broken ribs, and but he's
banged up. But I saw him the other day actually, and I was surprised how good he looked. He didn't look really beat up, and Davey's very tough and very positive, and looking forward to getting back up. We wish him a speedy recovery. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was the only rider that ended up getting hurt in that spill last week. But no, some fractured ribs is not all that bad. Things could have been a lot.
Could have been a lot worse, and and his spirits are great too.
Yeah, so Richard Hamill picks up the mount here on Undo It from Davey, and I just think this horse might get the perfect trip right in behind the speed. Maybe run down the 1 What a Score, who did run a good race in her debut. So I like her, and Thimble as well on the class drop. So I like those 3, but I went with the 8 Undo It on top. I went 8, 1, and 5.
On to the closer.
The closer, maiden 5 granders going 6.5. Got to field the 9 scheduled to go post fillies and mares. Exactors, try, supers. Don't forget that they're not supers, the super high 5.
That's right.
Don't forget to maybe give that a rattle. Might be able to take home some big cash. Not a particularly, I mean, the 6 Finale Blossom is the horse to beat.
Yeah.
There's some positives. Pedro jumps in the tack, a good third to Exotic Light and Plain Jane. Watch how those two run earlier in the card as well to see, because they're both in earlier today. But I went to the 9, Victor's Miss, so I'm going to call for her to win it. Alex Marty's off to a very good start this year. He's a
nice little rider.
He hasn't got the livest of calls, but he's slowly breaking
making
in,
the most of it too.
He's getting some nice thirds and fourths, and like he's riding well, and that's a big sign.
Yeah.
And I like this horse. This horse was battling on the head end, 3 wide the whole race. Had every reason to get a little tired late. I think with the race under his belt, this horse could run a lot better. Maybe defeat Finale Blossom, who I put in the 2nd spot, and the 4 Market Time I put in for 3rd. This horse also exiting that Perfect Light race that Victor's Miss is exiting. Those two were very close to each other, but they ran 2nd and 3rd, and I think they'll be right close to each other again. So I'm going to go for the old 649 box.
There you go.
But I'm going to take the 9.
The lottery.
I'm going to take the 9 Victor's Miss to win it.
I'm just jumbled around a little bit.
Yep.
Same numbers, just jumbled around. I put Market Time on top. Dropped down to the 5,000 level last time. First out. Didn't get beat far. Robbie's horse is always ready. Does a really good job.
Good.
They're running really good. So I got him on top. Finale Blossom I put in 2nd. Like you say, the horse to beat in here, definitely Finale Blossom.
The price is going to be awful though. But if you're going to shop, you got to shop around.
That's what I'm trying to give a different
little value.
Exactly. So I went with Market Time, the 4, Finale Blossom the 6 and 2nd, and your top pick Victor's Miss, a nice little horse out of the Gary Sates barn in 3rd.
Yeah, there you go. 6. Well, you go to the 6.
4, 6, 9.
I got 9, 6, 4. We're both trying to beat Finale Blossom. That's kind of good.
There we are.
Okay,
that's the Sunday card.
That's the Saturday card.
That's
the Saturday card. But up next on screen will be our selections, and we'll start off with my picks. We'll quickly recap them. Grab your pens and pencils. Here comes my picks. We'll go back to the first race. Number 1, Wilo Cott to win it. I went 1, 3, and 4. In the 2nd race, I went to the 2, Majesticality. I went 2, 1, and 3. In the 3rd, I went to the 3, Ice Rules, 3, 6, and 8. In the 4th race, I'm going to take the 5, Plain Jane, with the 5, 2, and 6. In the 5th race, I went to the 3, Naughty Librarian, went 3, 7, and 1. In the 6th race, I went to the 3, Dream in the Dark, 3, 7, and 8. And in the 7th race, I went to number 8, Undo It, followed up by the 1 and 5. And in the 8th and final, as we just mentioned, I went to number 9, Victor's Miss, followed up by the 6 and 4.
And on to my picks. There we go. I agree with Mike. I went with the 1, Wilo Cat in the 1st, on top of the 4, 6. In the 2nd, I went with Stormy Canuck, number 1, on top of 4, 3. In the 3rd, number 8, Chapel Boy, on top of the 5, 3. In the 4th, number 5, we agree on Plain Jane, on top of the 8 and 3. In the 5, another one we agree on, number 3, Naughty Librarian, with the 1 and 8 below. In the 6th race, number 8, Scopa, on top of the 3 and 4. In the 7th race, number 1, What a Score, on top of the 8 and 5. And in the 8th race, number 4, Market Time, over the 6 and 9.
Well, there you have our Saturday, May the 12th selections. We're just going to take a short break here. We'll have some commercials up. Don't forget about Nearly Neil coming up tomorrow.
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day, May the 13th. Still some tickets available. Come on out here to the Derby Bar and Grill and enjoy the Neil Diamond impersonator.
Famed
Neil Diamond impersonator. So after a short break, we'll be right back with Sunday, May the 13th picks.
I got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy that says if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do. If he says the horse can do.
I'm picking Valentine, cause on the morning line, the guy's got him figured at 5 to 9. So make it if it's 10, he wins it by a half. According to this here in the telegraph. If it's 10.